Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Charitable and Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And it would not be appropriate to do a year in review without reviewing that with one of the people that keep us in the know all year long. Welcome back, my friend and colleague, Earl Eues. Earl, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Keith. Glad to be back. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. All of those things that go together. And man, just being a part of the parish and, of course, Charitable Parish Office, Homeland Security, and Emergency Preparedness keeps you as one of those people that's got to be in the know, right? And so one of those things we rely on, it kind of makes me think a little bit going back, if we're going to do a year in review, January, February, we were having discussions every other week or so about, is it COVID? Is it flu? As we were seeing those numbers for COVID really kind of start to go down, but we had difficulty differentiating between those two.
Yeah, well, I mean, people were getting sick, and then they wouldn't know if they had the COVID or if they had the flu, and then they go to the doctor, you get swabbed for both.
Both, right?
And then they determine what you were. But we had a lot of flu cases, and still had a lot of COVID cases.
Yeah, exactly.
Which still exists today.
Yes, neither of those things have gone away. Neither of those things will go away.
Yeah, and the strain that's out right now for COVID, it doesn't make you as sick as when COVID first came out, but it's more contagious right now.
That is correct.
So we're hearing a lot more cases of people having COVID from just casual contact.
Right.
Everybody for
Traveling,
Christmas,
right?
and traveling and parties and stuff like that. So we socializing more. So you're going to get some more cases. Same thing with the flu.
Right. And then as we fast forward a little bit, it's really interesting to see that this particular flu season, this particular time of COVID, we're seeing a lot of these upper respiratory issues and infections where it's not just a cold.
Right. And some people have an RSV.
Right,
we're seeing a lot of
an outbreak of that. I'm sorry, don't want to use that word. We're seeing a lot of RSV. Don't want to misconstrue that terminology.
We and the people that are getting the flu are getting really sick. It's been a very viral, I guess, flu.
Good way to say that.
So some people I've talked to knocked them down for a couple of days.
Yeah, and listen, I got to tell you, I've gotten report from 3 or 4 people now that the flu took their Christmas. Yeah, the flu was the Grinch.
When COVID took our Christmas, my mother-in-law couldn't come because she had the COVID.
Because she had COVID. Wow.
Yeah, so we got to find another time to do it after New Year, but it's still there.
Yeah, and again, we know that about that. It's kind of not going away. We just got to be smart about it. We talk about it all the time. Whether you've got a cold or you've got the flu or you've got COVID or you've got an upper respiratory infection, you've got RSV, just be smart. Stay away from other people and go and figure out what it is so it can get treated, right?
Yeah, I mean, please stay away from work if you're sick.
Yeah.
And now that we know a lot of the flu is going around and we're seeing a little uptick in COVID cases, and nobody's really keeping track of COVID cases anymore. It's just what you hear, from your colleagues. We need, wash your hands. Stay away from people, kind of protect yourself like you would if like we used to do when we didn't want to get the flu.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. And even if you do go out, even if you just have something you think is really mild, just be smart. Ran into a buddy of mine, Frank, hadn't seen him in a while. He and his wife were over at one of the stores kind of shopping. And I saw him and I went to shake his hand. He said, "You know what? I've been coughing and sneezing a little bit this morning." He gave me a little fist bump, a little elbow bump, Look, I'm fine with that. We've learned a lot through this COVID process. I keep antibacterial in my car, in my travel bags, in my backpacks, all of it. Mm-hmm. I keep every bit of that all the time. And it's smart to be able to do that. I still wash my hands way more often than I ever did. And I avoid people. We're having a family event, and I'm like, hey, we'll keep our distance,
And thankfully there's still a vaccine for COVID.
Yep.
And we get a flu shot.
We can get a flu shot. There's a vaccine for flu.
Those things are available, and so take advantage of those situations. I got my flu shot.
Right.
So
I did both.
Hopefully, it scares it away.
Yeah. And if we've learned anything about Travis Kelce being way more popular in commercials, he knows that we can get both of them at the same time. He can do two things at once.
So,
play football and date, Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Not all of us are that lucky. So.
Yeah. Well, some of us already have the perfect wife.
You're right.
You and I have the perfect wife for us. Whatever is his situation is good. But again, the other thing is at the end of the year, we kind of start doing this look back and just kind of thinking about kind of things that we've dealt with or things that we've overcome. And it's been a pretty good year.
Yeah, it has. I'm thankful for the year that we've had. In the next segment, we'll talk about, the hurricane and,
or the lack thereof,
the lack of hurricanes that we've had. But,
and the lack we want next year.
We're seeing some improvement in getting people out of temporary housing.
Yes.
So there's a lot of good things that we were able to do because we did not have a hurricane season.
Right. And we'll talk about some of those weather events. But, as we are right here in between Christmas and New Year's, as Christmas actually started on Monday, in the faith-based churches, we know that began that day, and so I think it's very appropriate for us to think about how thankful, and how blessed we are, and how great of a community we live in, right?
Oh, exactly. We got some great people in this community, and we talk about resiliency a lot. We probably do resiliency in South Louisiana better than anywhere else in this country.
I cannot agree more. And we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Earl, thanks for sticking around. And we'll ask you to do the same thing. Stick around right here on HTV as we continue on this edition of Bayou Time.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Thanks once again for joining us. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker, joined by Earl Eues with the Parish, Homeland Security, and Emergency Preparedness. Thanks for coming back.
It's all good, Keith.
I appreciate that. One of those things that we talk a little bit about, well, actually you and I talk a lot about, is hurricane season. We were very well prepared last year. Ida, 2 years prior, got us, making sure that we're very well prepared. A lot of improvements, but we didn't have a whole lot to talk about as it relates to named storms, and certainly none that came our way.
Yeah, which is a good season for us.
Man.
So, but it gives us some time to go back, review our plans. Parish support runs different agencies of the state. We still meet even though there's no hurricanes.
Right.
And continue to do the preparation as if we have a hurricane coming.
Right.
To make sure that we're prepared. And, after Ida, I prayed for no hurricanes the following year. Mm-hmm. And we were lucky to have that.
Right.
And I don't like to be too greedy, but I'll take another one next year.
Heck yeah.
So the thing I kept telling everybody this year was the leaving parish president, Gordon Dove, doesn't need one on his last year. And our new parish president, Jason Bergeron, doesn't need one his first year.
He sure doesn't.
so we'll keep it like that if we can.
Right.
But it does give us some time to look over things, make sure we have everything prepared, and find some, go to some conferences and meet other people in other hurricane areas. We learn different ideas, and we try to come back and implement some of those that we think will benefit our residents here.
Well, I can tell you that there are people all over the country who have looked at what we did and what we've done pre and post Ida, and have said, if we're going to do it, we want to do it as well as those guys.
Yeah.
And look, that's just truth from Washington, from all over the state. People have come down to find out what you do and what we do. And I know you don't take credit for that, but you should. in as much as we look at really what does or doesn't work and make implementation probably as quickly as any team.
Yeah, we try to, and we got a lot of people that work in our office during an emergency, and we meet on a regular basis during the year to make sure that we know each other. That's the most important thing,
right?
Because we have some changes in administration or people moving to different positions, so we like to make sure we know who all the players are that are going to be coming into our office. And then you say a lot of people come in and look at our operations. We do have some people that come in. To the credit of the people that work in that office, that's why it works so smoothly. But the state of Louisiana's Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, they're asked to be what we call EMAC'd, where they take our people and move them to where there's a disaster. The state gets offers all the time to move people to other disaster areas because, and I don't know if we're that good at it. I just think that we have so many more disasters that activate so much more than a lot of places in the country. Besides the wildfire areas on the West Coast, because they're always battling wildfires, but in other areas of the country, they're just not used to being activated and having the types of emergencies that we have.
Yeah. And fortunately, we haven't had that many, which has allowed us to kind of move forward a little bit. We see less of these temporary housing. For example, a lot of these camper parks have kind of consolidated.
Yeah, well, we were able to close the Rebecca Plantation. We call it the Rebecca Plantation trailer park. We was able to close that. Not everybody was moved to permanent housing. The little bit that they had left there, we put them in commercial trailer parks.
Right.
We're still working with about 900 to 1,000 families right now to try to find them some permanent housing.
Right.
But it's been a challenge. Mm-hmm. I thank the GOSAP and Kelly Vornado and her staff at Housing and Human Services for helping to try to find some permanent housing.
Right.
A lot of what happened during the storm was, somebody owned a rent house and they were renting it to somebody. Then the storm came and damaged it more than 50% probably. And instead of rebuilding that rent house, they tore it down and took the insurance money. Okay. So the person that was renting in there and living in there no longer has a place to go back to. So that we got a lot of that.
Right,
where they were living is no longer there.
Right. So it's not even like it's an option to go back somewhere. There's nothing there.
That's correct. And
it's not even being rebuilt.
Yeah, and we have limited Section 8 housing right now.
And because of damages.
Because of damages, and then we have the cost of rent has gone up. So we're trying to work with these people the best we can and try to get them out of their situation that they're in, because what they're living in is not a permanent housing solution.
Right.
And so we need to help them and try to give them to them.
And look, even just to our north, I know in Lafourche and Thibodaux, they've been some options, but I got to tell you that there's a lot of people that they don't want to leave their beloved Houma.
Well, that's
our beloved
true too.
Terrebonne Parish.
Yeah, we've offered people vouchers to leave the parish and go temporarily and I'd say temporarily be somewhere else until they can get back on their feet and come back in and find a place here. But nobody wants to leave. I mean, and I don't blame them.
No. And look, you got people all over the country looking at us going, why would they want to stay? when they have something like Ida, why would they want to stay? Yeah. Well, there's I can list about 100 reasons why you and I stay.
And Calcasieu Parish is experiencing the same issue from a Hurricane Laura, which is 3.5 years ago. Right.
So same kind of problem.
Yeah. So, but the state has helped trying to do the best they can.
Yeah.
To provide and find some permanent housing for these people.
And I know the parish is working really hard with that. I know you and Chris Pulaski work very tirelessly about those kinds of things. And it's one of those things, it's a good thing because we're improving with that, but it's still a challenge for so many people. And maybe just at this year in, as we kind of close this segment, we think about maybe or prayerful for those people in 2024 having some good news. We'll take another short break. Be right back.
That'll be fine.
Very cool. Y'all do that with us. We'll be right back with Earl Eues here talking about good things in 2024. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Weisheit. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it very, very much. Very glad to be sitting next to my friend and colleague, Earl Eues, as we talk about this year in review. I'm very glad that we get to do it as often as we do and get to talk as much as we do. That you've been here with me for 12 years now.
More like, let's see, 6 to 15 years.
Okay. 13 with me, brother.
Yeah.
And so
is that how long you've been here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been doing the emergency preparedness work for the parish for 15 years.
Well, thank you. Because, again, I know you always give credit to everybody else on your team. But, look, that's a lot of dedication and hard work. And we know that. We know what it takes.
Well, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And part of that is wanting to have good things happen. And we've had some really good things happen since the most destructive storm has ever hit our place. Most of us believe was a Category 5 storm. And we, in that recovery process, we've been very thankful. We're hoping that the next administration, like you said, we don't want Gordy to finish with one. We don't want Jason to start with one. And so we're hoping that we don't have that. But Gordy had to deal with something. You guys had to deal with something that was a little different with these marsh fires this year.
Yeah, well, with the drought conditions that we had and the lack of rainfall, it just everything was just so dry. We've had marsh fires and open land fires in the past, right. But typically that marsh would have some water in it.
Right.
So it would burn down to the water level and then the fire would go out. Okay. Without any water in it, it just continued to roll and affect everything that's around it. I got to give it to the local fire departments.
Oh, man.
They've worked very hard. We started out with the big marsh fire in the Shreva area, the Shreva Fire Department and those
Bayou Cane.
They did a great job up there, put in a lot of hours. Our Public Works Department did a great job coordinating the flooding of those areas. And Parish, President Gordon Dove committed the resources to make sure that we could put those out, and because it was really becoming a nuisance with the amount of smoke that was being produced.
Right. And I got a quick question. Do a lot of those fires, do they burn a lot of that marsh off each year?
Some people do.
Right.
I mean, the marsh that you would see burning typically every year is the one on Highway 90, between us and Bayou or the Raceland 182 exit. But if you notice, though, if you pay attention, that marsh would burn in the wintertime, and in the spring it would come back as green as could be.
Very green, right.
I mean,
Flush, green,
the vegetation just comes back, and it's good for that.
Right.
But the problem with burning it without any water like it did is it burns the root structure now. So it may be a while before that replenishes back to a freshwater marsh with the vegetation.
Like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was fortunate to have come on to the show Russell DeSalvo with Coto Fire Department. And he was telling me that they're burning some 12, 15 inches deep.
Yeah.
That's burning so there's no water level 12, 15 inches, where it's been a water level sometimes 3 or 4 inches.
Right.
And that's kind of the difference with the drought. And
so they have what we call another word, they'd say peat.
Right.
But another
peat
word
moss,
would be what they call detritus.
Right.
Okay. Which is kind of like peat. That's burning underneath the surface.
Right.
The other issue we had with the wildfires, especially in southwest Louisiana, was Hurricane Laura came through, and then we had Hurricane Ida. All the branches and everything that fell from in these wooded areas fell to the ground. And nobody's out there cleaning it up.
Nobody's picking that up in those areas.
It's the woods,
right.
Okay? But that all became kindling for those fires.
Right.
And so Hurricane Laura, Hurricane Ida contributed a lot to some of these fires.
I like it. So again, you've already mentioned it very eloquently that we're very thankful, and we don't need we didn't need a hurricane for Gordy's last summer, if you will, the hurricane season in his administration. And we certainly don't want one for Jason, but we certainly want a shout out to President Gordon Dove and what he's done in our community. We're talking about the volume of monies that he's brought in, which has been remarkable to this community.
Especially for hurricane protection levies. I mean,
right, right.
We're against he's brought in a lot, especially as his time as a legislature and also a parish president. And I got to thank Parish President Dove, for what he's done for this parish the last 8 years and the support he has given our office, the Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, to allow us to do the job that we do and to help protect the citizens. And I got to give credit to the council too. Never have we ever gone up there and asked for a piece of equipment that would benefit the residents of the parish where we ever told, no, you can't have it. We don't have the money for it. So
we'll find the money.
Yeah, and so he's been very good with us for that, and Jason's going to be the same way.
Listen, it's going to be seamless, and that's everything that I'm hearing. Is that there's going to be, and Gordy's been very gracious, and Jason has been very open to learning, and I think President Bergeron is going to do a wonderful job in kind of carrying on some of those things that work right.
Yeah, and I'm excited, to be honest with you, to work with Jason, and he's got some great ideas, and the staff that he's bringing on has got some great ideas, and not everybody likes change, okay, but change is good.
Change can be very good.
With some of our departments, I talk about our department 12 years ago is not the same it was 12 years ago, and we made some changes to go to the better side, and then like solid waste with knocking over there, he's made a lot of changes to make the department better. So I think change is going to be good, and I look forward to a great year for 2024 and a great administration for the next 4 years.
4 years, exactly. And so, Earl, again, thank you. I want to wish certainly Merry Christmas to you and your mother-in-law, especially since y'all get to do it again. And a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I agree with you. I think 2024 and this next administration as we move forward is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and I look forward to a Happy New Year to you and your family, too.
Thank you, Earl. I appreciate that. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment of Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming right here on HTV.